Hello and welcome back to the Transfer Flow. And on today's episode, Liverpool gets smashed by Nottingham Forest, but what scary signs did we see from Slot in this game, and is his job in danger? Arsenal batter Spurs, how is Eze improving the Gunners, and can the same be said for Frank at Tottenham? Then Man City, who lost a close fixture with Newcastle, is their historic reliance on Erling Haaland going to bite them? Plus, we return to Serie A to ask which of these mid teams will win the division after Milan beat Inter in the Derby della Madonnina. That's all on today's episode of the Transfer Flow. Okay, we're back for another Monday edition of the Transfer Flow podcast, and joining me is Neel Shelat. How are you doing, Neel?
I'm good, Patrick. I took a week off. The previous international breaks, you guys were turning to me, but some people weren't too happy with the stuff I was coming up with. I
What?
won't name them, but some people said the topics I was bringing were barely football. And so what I thought is, let me go off and see what these guys do. And guess what I saw? Top 10 midfielders in the world. How
Yes.
original.
Neel, you can't hire me to be on a podcast and expect me to be bringing intellectual content. Like, I'm sorry that Neel, the crowd pleaser, like was not available on that podcast, and I had to produce like top 10 midfielders in the world. But look, I
It
think it
kind of
was
worked.
great. And look, and you know what? Maybe you can weigh in on it when we get to some relevant teams today, like Liverpool, who I'm sure we will touch on. Look, you were missed. It's good to have you back. And it's good for the international break to be over. But we actually had some big matches this weekend, or some interesting matches. We had Arsenal Spurs, which was interesting in some ways. Liverpool had an insane result against Forest. Newcastle City had a genuinely interesting match, I think.
Yeah.
And there was the Derby della Madonnina in Italy as well. And we're going to talk a little bit about the state of Italy right now. Should we start off in North London, though? Like, this was the kind of glamour fixture of the weekend, I guess. And it wasn't that surprising in the end that Spurs switched to the back three for it. It was like something that we thought they might do before the game, and probably they watched the Sunderland match and thought, "Hey, we can do that." It did not work, I would say, and their approach was quite bizarre. It was they were keeping the wing backs deep, and it was a pretty static back line for a lot of the time, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea what the idea. I mean, okay, I get switch back five, defend lot,
Yeah.
not don't concede, but you should also consider scoring a goal. That is also a part of the sport of football.
Hmm.
And they had absolute like, before the game, people were talking about, oh, maybe they can do something with set pieces, like Gabriel's out, they got long throws, this and that. There was like literally one long throw in the first half, and that was the only set piece like I can even remember for them. And then obviously their first goal comes from like a million miles out, at 3-0 down or whatever, without even a single shot anywhere near the box. So there's absolutely nothing from them going forward, which is not good. And that's probably not how you should go about any football match, regardless of how big the talent differential is. And in this case, I would argue it certainly was not big enough to try doing any of that. But even like you said, like even the basics of like the defending stuff, like at least push out a bit to release some pressure. Don't let Arsenal do whatever the hell they want,
Yeah.
up until they get to the final third. Like you're just asking for trouble. And yeah, like that's the most surprising part for me is, okay, I mean obviously the not don't attack at all is not good, but with Frank you'd at least expect, like as we've spoken about before, like a basic floor. Well, there at least be solid defensively and
Yes.
and not do stupid stuff. And okay, they probably still lose this game, but it's at least closer and not quite such a blowout. But yeah, it was all weird stuff. I have no idea what the idea was. I mean, I can't really say like going back to the back four even like really worked in the second half, because they still didn't do anything. It's just Arsenal obviously at 3-0 up, or 3 goals up, took it a bit easier, and that's why Spurs saw a bit more of the ball. But it's not like they got forward or created anything really. So yeah, not good from Spurs. That's but good from Arsenal. I think we have to give them credit as well, because in I think in previous seasons, certainly, even when they're just coming up against this kind of a low block, even if a team isn't doing much going forward, we have seen, maybe less so in recent years, but certainly earlier years, you would see them get stuck in that U circulation,
Yep.
death spiral.
Hmm.
And I think what I've noticed now is when they start, and that happened, I would say, in like the first 15 minutes of this game. But what I've noticed now is when that starts to happen, they react and they start to add some more fluidity in the side, introduce some more rotations.
Yes.
So one, I mean, we've spoken about the fullback roles before, and how that's often the way you see just how much attacking intent Arsenal want to show. And I think Timber is a player you want to watch in these kind of situations, because when they get stuck in that U, he starts to push up more. He kind of goes alongside Saka, even pushes up inside, and just adds another body in the front line, adds another passing option to go forward. But obviously, there's other rotations here as well. I mean, the two midfielders moved around a fair bit, but
Mm.
obviously the key was Merino and Eze. Merino, I mean, he's actually a good like all round striker. He's not even just a guy to lump the ball into the
I
box
know,
to. Like he'll actually even do like false nine stuff, which is crazy.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean that worked out excellent. Eze was brilliant. I thought his kind of movement, the timing of his arrivals into like the central regions to get those shots, and the finishes, the way he kind of got rid of the ball on either foot and put it past the keeper, all excellent. So yeah, really good performance from Arsenal, and I think a kind of indicator of how they've improved, over the last couple of years. And yeah, Tottenham, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. Yeah, like, look, in fairness to Thomas Frank, we can all get our setups wrong because I've just realized that I left my ring light off. So I'm going to turn it on now. Whoa. That's actually too bright, man. I don't think I could do that.
Yeah, I think you did do a Thomas Frank there. You're like, I
I
got my
did Thomas
setup
Frank.
wrong.
I
Let me do something
overcompensated,
more
mate.
wrong.
But it's like I almost thought this was a game where Arsenal benefited from not having like a real striker, as it were, in that it was like, okay, well, all these guys are comfortable in the midfield and all these guys are comfortable in the front line. And so you had Saka sometimes at number 9. He's there before the first goal. You have Ezra going there, you have Marino going there. And that ability to rotate, everybody clearly understood that it's like it wasn't about position, it was about roles. So somebody goes forward to push the defensive line back, somebody drops into the hole, the wide guys and the midfielders really try and make these diagonal darts, and whoever's in each role, it's dangerous. But I agree that like Spurs' whole thing is like, we have a bunch of midfielders who cannot do anything, but they can like hack away at you. They're like little terrier types who are going to like close you down really quickly if you're in the middle. And so there were long stretches, especially, at the beginning of the game, where it was like, oh, Eze is just like not in the game at all. But then as soon as the play was slightly broken, so obviously for the chance he creates, it's a transition, and then
Yeah.
for the first goal, for his goal, it's a like second phase ball win from Rice, right?
Yeah.
Like then suddenly there's just this huge area vacated in front of the back line because they were playing so deep, and Palhinha and Bentancur were getting pulled out wide to try and double team guys like Saka. And so then there was no space on the guy playing the ball. And there were these smart runs that were being made between the wing back and the centre back. And frankly, Danso and Spence seemed to have absolutely no idea what they were meant to be doing. Like there were points where Danso was getting drawn out by Calafiori. Calafiori was kind of pushing high up. And Trossard was just running into that space again and again and again. And I thought, they want to go man to man. Like you might as well just let them go man to man in this game, like at this stage, like because this is not working. Like whatever you're trying to do here, it's not working at all. And I mean, look, those kind of details I think are particularly damaging when you're up against someone like Eze, because Eze is so technically clean and quick thinking.
Yeah.
But when like Mikel Merino, who is a very smooth player on the ball, but he's not exactly like the most nimble guy in the world. He gets on the ball and turns around and has a little look and clips the ball through the middle, and it's almost identical to a chance you've already given up. Then I do think like this is pretty shocking. Like there's some bad luck there too. Obviously the first Ezra goal should have been disallowed. I think that's like fairly clear. I'm not quite sure how that was allowed to stand, to be honest with you. But other stuff
Even the
here,
first goal was a deflection, and
yeah,
sure,
exactly. It's like,
but
Van maybe blocks it wide in another one. But Billy Carpenter pointed out in his latest long read that, Spurs have blocked a lower percentage of shots than anyone else in the league. And like sometimes that's not that illuminating. Someone has to be bottom, but you can see in this game that Ezra was just picking the ball up on the edge of the area, and there are guys in the way, but not blocking. And I
They
think
just go.
all this does is make life miserable for the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper's just constantly seeing shots coming through his bodies, and two or three of Arsenal's goals come this way. You can debate the third as a goal, so there's a load of stuff like this where you just think these are details that need to be ironed out. That's going to take quite a long time to iron out. But the basic stuff about the approach to the game and the shape, I agree. We expected to see better from Frank. The idea of let's fix the defense first and then we'll add some attack. Like Arteta, that's what Arteta did.
Yeah.
But be more boring than this. like, I don't know. It was just like we're playing really boring football, but we're not tracking the runners. We're not putting pressure on the ball. Arsenal didn't even have Odegaard in this game, and I was looking at this game in the second half, and I thought, man, if Odegaard was playing, because when you talk about Timber's one of those guys, and Odegaard's the main one for Arsenal, but Timber's one as well, who read the game and like understand what is needed from the game. I think Timber's probably the best game reader of Arsenal's defenders. I think.
Yeah.
If you'd had a guy like Odegaard in this game, I just think it could have been a real bloodbath. And their goal came just purely because I think Zubimendi kind of lost concentration and was like, this game's over. And Raya is always up for getting lobbed. It's his favourite thing to happen. He loves nothing better than the sight of the ball going over his head. So, I don't know. All that stuff is a bit bad. Like Ezra, though, for Arsenal, seems to be exactly what they hoped he'd be. Like only 5 players in the league are taking more shots than him so far this season. And Arsenal are leading the league as well in shots coming from other shot attempts. So, rebounds, spills, deflections. The willingness to take those imperfect efforts, it seems like that is giving Arsenal a level of unpredictability, or can give Arsenal a level of unpredictability. This Eze performance is kind of the first time we've really seen it kind of explode. But that feels like it's helping the Arsenal attack add a new dimension, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also different. It's a very different profile to Odegaard as well, right? So obviously he did play off the left initially, but I think this is very much the ideal way forward. And there's always the option in certain games where you just like Subimendi or Rice will take care of it. One of them get a bit of rest, and you can put two of them, either when you're chasing a game or when you're playing Burnley or something. You can do that. So like it's a very good additional dimension for them, and that's basically the whole thing about their summer window has been adding new dimensions, right? Because clearly the baseline of this side even last season was like title challenging caliber. It was just they didn't have enough depth and different dimensions to be able to go the distance. And this is like a prime example of both. Really, it's depth and it's a new dimension.
Mm-hmm. If you from the Spurs point of things, though, this is the second time in a month that I think they've set a new record for their lowest XG on record in a game. I think against Chelsea, they had 0.12 expected goals. Against Arsenal, 0.07 off 3 shots. Still overperformed, though. So, good for them.
Fair play.
But, like, what is the approach here, Neel? Like, what's... When you look at this team, what do you think is the path to getting better? Because we all agree that they should be better than this, or they're capable of being better than this. Let's be honest, like last season, as bad as they were in the league overall, they were much better against Arsenal in this game at the Emirates under Ange, and much less open in some ways. So what can Frank tweak in order to make them more dangerous?
Yeah, I mean, for one, like I remember at the start of the season, like the City game, like they came out. Like, I was surprised because they came out pressing high,
Yeah.
like fully player up, high press and cause problems. And I'm not saying go gung ho in every game, but like at least have something of a balance. Like don't just sink all the way back, regardless of who the opposition is. Clearly, like they have it in the locker, so like maybe try using it sometimes. But yeah, like the in possession stuff is the weirdest, right? Because like they want to play out short every time, but like you said, they don't even have a midfielder who knows what a pass is. So I feel like the united approach of just hoof it long and try and make some of the second balls is what would probably work better with this collection of midfielders.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that the ideal way forward? Probably not in the long term. But at the moment, like I would much rather do that than like go out wide and then come back and then go out wide again and then come back and then concede from a stupid turnover or something. Like, and the other thing is like they do have set piece threat. So even if you just hoof it long and can draw, a foul or two, even that might lead to something. But yeah, like I for one, don't mess things up tactically out of possession. Like just do simple. And obviously, this game is a bit of an outlier, but they have lost like 3 of the last 4 domestically against Newcastle and Chelsea, the others, and then there was that 2-2 draw with United as well.
Yeah.
None of them, particularly inspiring performances. So yeah, like it's what we expect is like do the basics, have a decent floor, and then you can build the attack eventually off of that. But for some reason they've just tore down the floor, and that's it's actually useful to have a floor, is what I've learned.
Yeah, and I mean in this game as well, they've got so few passers in the squad that when you start with Porro and Simons on the bench, the only guy in the 11 who can pass is Romero. And it's not like other teams don't know that. Like everybody knows that. And so then the plan is either Romero hits a perfect pass or Kudus dribbles out of a triple
5
team to
people,
create
yeah.
something. And Kudus had some moments in this game, but it's just like Arsenal are the hardest working out of possession elite side around. You're not going to escape. So this was a perfect storm of Arsenal, I think, playing really really well, and like the perfect situation for Eze, and Spurs having a really bad day. We'll see what happens when Arsenal go away to Chelsea next week. That's an interesting one.
And at Bayern in the midweek Champions League game, I'm very interested to see that.
I
I'm seated.
I have no idea what is going to happen in that game. Like, wouldn't be that surprising, right? If Arsenal just completely locked them out and we're just like, fine, we could do it all game. Also, wouldn't be surprising if Bayern were the one team in the world who were capable of just pulling apart that Arsenal back line. That's a really really interesting one. But should we go on to Newcastle versus Man City then? Because this was obviously much more evenly balanced. Both sides had around 2.5 expected goals in this game, but totally different methods, right? Like City had 2/3 of the ball. They had 17 shots for 2.5 XG. Newcastle had 2.4 XG off 9 shots. So that tells you how these teams are playing. But I loved the way Newcastle approached this because they decided to take risks. They really went for it in the midfield. They were gumming up the midfield. But as soon as there was any kind of contest for the ball, you saw Newcastle pushing up 3 or 4 guys against the back line. That Volta had a chance. Before Guimaraes is even facing forwards, there are like Murphy is racing to join the attack. And they did that all game long. And that's also how, they get the first Barnes goal as well. You've got a couple of Newcastle midfielders completely outnumbered in the center of the park, and you've got 4 Newcastle attackers up against the back line. They did this all game long, and this is something that we just never used to see against Man City, right? That teams would say, "No, we're going to take a risk, and we think it might pay off for us."
Yeah, but fair play to them because I think it's now a risk worth taking given how City's rest defense has deteriorated
Mm.
over the last season and basically since Rodri's injury. And yeah, like my main takeaway from the game was that they still haven't really recovered that. And obviously Newcastle did excellent, as you say, feeding the front 3 or even the front 5 with the midfielders pushing up. All of them made very good runs collectively in transition and got all those chances. But as you say, City had more of the ball. This is the kind of game where you expect they'll first pin the opponent in, then start probing for openings, and then find Haaland probably and find a goal. But that didn't happen. Like Newcastle, I would say consistently were creating something. It had their chances in the first. Both teams had their chances, of course, in the first half. I think it was 7 big chances missed in the first half, which was a league record for like a goalless half. So it could have gone either way, we have to say.
Mm.
But but yeah, like I think it's even that is not a good performance from City standards if you're trying to be a serious title contender. And I mean, there's a few other issues with City as well, right? I mean, obviously Newcastle, I think, as you said, fair play to them. And this also shows that, as you guys have been saying before, that even though they might not always do so well in the league and will probably have issues against different types of opponents, they do have the potential to cause problems to the big teams in the Champions League. And this
Yeah.
kind of performance shows exactly how they can do that. So clearly a good game for them. For City, it's not just the rest defense, right? It's also, I think, I mean, what last week in the newsletter, I basically looked at their over reliance on Haaland, which is pretty insane. Like he has had, I think, I mean, this is not updated from the weekend, but it was pretty close to this figure as well. So as of last week, he had 60% of City's NPXG all went to Haaland. And that's
60%.
by far, yeah. So that's, which is insane, right? And
If it were 35%, that would be high.
it's so 30. In fact, funny you say that, because 35%, exactly 35.54%, is the highest we've ever had in a Big Five league for a title winning team. Do you want to guess who that was?
It's City, right?
No, it's Lewandowski in his 41 goal
Really?
season. Yeah, Holland
Wow.
was I think close to like 33 ish, but he was obviously up there. But well, if you don't remember, do you want to guess so this is in Big Five leagues since 17-18 when we have XG data. So Holland right now in 60% is by far the highest. Who is like, or not who, but what number do you think is second? So 35% is kind of the next for a title winning striker. Obviously, for worse teams with a really good striker, the figure changes. But what do you think is second place?
So this is for a team that didn't win the title that
Yeah,
had
this is
like
like
a
a
striker.
not a really good team, but a striker did well for them.
I previously the highest numbers
I'll
I've
give you a hint.
seen
It was last season, by the way. This was last season.
it was last season. Oh my god. Generally speaking, the numbers we see are about like the highest you would ever hope to see is like 40% ish, somewhere around there.
Yep.
I can't imagine who it would be. Who would it be?
I'll give you a hint. It's a striker who previously played in the Premier League, but was and is in Serie A. So this he did this in Serie A.
Striker in Serie A,
Previously Premier League.
previously Premier League. Neel, I'm feeling stressed. Oh my god, who could it be?
So the number was 42.02%.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only after that it's the third place
Is it
is
Jamie
Dominic
Vardy?
Calvert-Lewin. No. Good shout,
That'd be
but no.
that was the
That,
immense. Sorry, I got excited there, but obviously it's
yeah,
not Jamie Vardy.
you thought
But
you
that
had it,
would be
but
exciting.
yeah, that would be, yeah. So I'll give it to you. It's Moise again, for
Oh
Fiorentina
sure,
last
yeah,
season.
okay.
So he and then third place is Dominic Calvert-Lewin 2020-21 at 38%. So that's
Fair.
Everton, like horrendous Everton team.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Calvert-Lewin's basically the only guy they have who knows what a shot is,
Does anything?
and
Yeah.
he gets 38.9% of their NPXG, and Holland on City right now is getting 60%. So it is an insane level of over reliance, I'd say, and that is one of I would say a couple of issues I had with City um, going into and through this season, which is why I don't think they've shown enough to even like seriously challenge us in the long run. I'd say so far. So yeah, like it was basically in this game for Newcastle defensively was lockdown Holland, and Foden did get a couple of chances to be fair, but he didn't kind of convert them. And apart from that, like City against like especially after going a goal down, obviously they immediately scored, but then at 2-1 as well, they didn't really show much against the low block. Like they didn't really kind of pummel through it. I don't think they created enough. Didn't have enough shots, I would say, in the end from different players. And that's kind of the issue, right? It's not just that Holland is taking all these shots or getting all these chances, which is still fair because he's a really good striker and you want to give him as many chances as possible, but it's that they're so reliant on him for everything. So even if you think about like Foden's kind of goal scoring,
Mm-hmm.
he often gets shots from the edge of the box or just outside. That's often because Holland's in the box, attracting a few defenders, that Foden
Sure.
gets that free shot.
Yeah, of
But if
course.
you can take Holland out of, like, if, for example, he gets injured, then I think City are in a big, big spot of bother because they don't have, like, they have to change everything to make it work. And even in a game like this, where I think, by the way, Malik Thiaw was excellent.
Mm.
He did really well to lock Holland down in many cases. When that happens, again, you're struggling for alternatives. Um, you don't really know who's going to step up, and then you get a result like this. I mean, like in the last 20 minutes, I thought Newcastle were slightly the more likely team to score again because they were solid enough at the
Yeah.
back and they got a couple of counters, and those were really the most threatening situations in that period. So that's one of that, and the rest defensing are the two big problems for City,
Yeah.
and that's why I am not too convinced by them.
Yeah. I mean, so this is kind of like my issue with City for a long time has been that they just moved away from wide guys who would get their own shots, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, particularly when they sold Alvarez, but even going back further than that, there was a time where you had Sterling and Mahrez and to
Yes,
some
so
degree
actually,
Sané and Jesus, all these wide guys who could take shots.
I think it was John Muller who said, I'm forgetting the season, but it's one or two seasons before Holland, where City were like 97th in 99 Big Five league teams in terms of what he called heliocentricity, which is basically
Okay. Hmm.
one player getting most of your shots. So I think it was like Sterling with 15% of the NPXG in that season, which
Hmm.
placed them 97th of 99 teams. So basically, they were kind of like the third best team in terms of sharing shots from different players.
But
And
that
now
was
they've
but that was the season, right, where they had no striker, right, where they
yeah,
won the
the
league with no
false nine
striker.
season.
But
Yeah,
even in the days when they had, Aguero and Jesus, they still had shot getting wide guys, right? And
yeah,
then
fair, yeah,
obviously last season they kind of had a big panic and brought in Marmoush. And to be fair to them, like Marmoush has paid 290s this season, and you do assume that Marmoush helps this at least
yeah.
a
But
bit.
my thing with that is Marmoush is also reliant on Holland because they
Yeah.
have the partnership going on. Like
Yeah,
Marmoush
agreed.
in himself, how much can he do if you take Holland out? Is I mean, obviously he'd still do better than the rest of the guys who are getting like no shots, but it's not enough, I think. So I mean, it's a weird one because you wouldn't really expect them to like deviate so far,
Yeah.
especially at a time when like everyone knows you cannot afford to build a team around one guy because one guy is not even going to play. Like even if he's the fittest guy on earth, he's not going to play every game. Like
And he's
it's
not the
not
fittest
possible.
guy on earth.
And
He's
he's
not
not
the
the fittest
fittest.
guy on earth.
He's not the
Yeah,
fittest guy. Like even if he were the fittest guy on earth, you'd still look at the size of him and the speed he runs at, and you'd say a catastrophic injury here is like not an unlikely turn of events. This guy is
yeah,
colossal and runs like a 10.5 second 100 meters. Like this guy's a lunatic. But you're right about the cascading effects because even Jeremy Doku, Ted was saying the other day, Jeremy Doku is like the most unplayable guy in the Premier League at times, and that can be true. You literally cannot get the ball off him, but he hasn't developed. Everyone's talking about him taking a leap forward this season, but he hasn't done it by getting his own shots and expected goals. He's at under 1.2 shots a game. What's happened is his expected assists have gone way up because he's managing to get more of those passes into Haaland. Well,
yeah.
you take Haaland out the side, and like maybe Jeremy Doku drops back to like 0.35, zero point 0.4 expected goals and assists per 90. So this is the thing. I mean,
Same for Sherky. Like who's he gonna pass to?
yeah, Shirky too. But this is the thing. Like there are lots of players. Like I know that when Savio's played this season, he hasn't looked great. I know he's got a lot of criticism from City fans. But I do look at a player like that, and I think this is a guy who you need up to speed because when Haaland gets injured, he is one of the few people in this squad who I see being able to get a reasonable number of shots. He's one of the few guys in the squad with a track record of a reasonable number of shots. And I think if Haaland gets injured, it's probably going to be some combination of Marmoush Savio that gets you through it. I and yet they don't seem to want to use him at all. So it's really quite a concerning situation for them. I agree. And if they do anything of note this season, it will be such a groundbreaking occurrence. For them to win the league, I mean, already the points difference would make it pretty groundbreaking. But I just can't see how it would work out. Like we're at a point now where Haaland could sit out the next two games and City could get like 2 xG in both of them, and he would still have like 40% of their non-penalty expected goals. So it's just this seems insane to me.
It is, yeah.
Especially because that point about City moving away from shot getting wide guys, I think a lot of us noticed that and said, hey, maybe they should get a wide guy who could get some shots. And I mean, they did technically do that, but it's almost like Pep said, oh, no, rather than rather than trying to solve this problem by getting wide guys who can get shots, I'm looking at my team, which only gets shots to the one guy. Let's do that more. Let's do as much of that as possible. I don't know. Like, if he stays fit all season, then I'm sure that people will say that it was a good idea. But I struggle to see how this is going to
Yeah, I
work
mean,
out for them.
yeah, like, that's the kind of thing of like when you're trying to analyze something, you can't get kind of too drawn into the outcome bias, right? Because
Yeah.
sure, Holland could have a great season and score, I don't care, 50 goals. The point is, like, in principle, City pinning all of their hopes on one player is not good.
Yes.
Like, regardless of how that turns out, even if that works, like, principally, they have the resources, they have everything you could possibly need to be able to build like a more sustainable team which works regardless of who's injured, and they've done that before. So to move away from that into this is, I would say, not good.
I would agree with that, and even I think as well when you look at the Lewandowski season, like the degree to which Bayern dominate the Bundesliga in XG means that like everybody has a ton of XG, even if Lewandowski has
Yeah,
like
exactly. Yeah.
the highest percentage. Whereas City are not like the most dominant side in the Premier League. They don't even have the most XG in the Premier League. They're right up there, but if they had twice as much XG as everybody else and Haaland was killing it, then you'd kind of say like, you know what, whatever.
Fair enough.
But
Yeah.
they are in a competitive division and they are having problems right now. And I agree, like we are an injury away from City embarking on quite a miserable run. So I don't know. I really give Newcastle credit for this game. Like Voltemada, 5 passes completed, 4 shots. That is the
Love
kind of
it.
stat line I like to see. But I do think that on another day, this could have led to them getting smashed. Like Newcastle contesting the ball, being really aggressive in midfield, like and taking risks, like running the risk of transitions against in order to get transitions for. City could punish you on another day, but the league doesn't live in fear of City anymore, and I think that's overall a good
Yeah,
thing.
that's the main thing. Is like, before you wouldn't even think about like that against City.
Yeah.
Now you can. It's like it's maybe a coin flip, but it's worth taking that risk rather than kind of just waiting. So
Mm.
yeah, fair play to them.
Yeah, and we should move on to Forest versus Liverpool as well, or Liverpool versus Forest, I should say. Um, man, I don't really know what to say about Liverpool. Like this is like 6 losses in 7. They had 1.9 xG to 1.6 in this game, but obviously they trailed for an hour, so you know it's not amazing. The only positive I've really got for Liverpool at the moment is that when they were winning narrow games with last minute goals, we said, well, this can't go on forever. And they've now won 6 and lost 6 in the league. They don't have a single draw in the league. So if you can't keep winning those close games, you're also not going to keep losing those close games. And when you look back through their last few fixtures, like Palace, Chelsea, United, Brentford, all these games were pretty close. And I don't think it would be like that everyone would be fine with it. But if they had maybe 3 more draws instead of 6 losses, they'd be up around 4th. And I don't think the narrative would be as bad as it is. That said, it's not just the narrative. Like you watch them, and yeah, in the first half, they could have had a couple of goals. Like they looked pretty dangerous. But they just do not look like they know how to defend at the moment. Like I don't have a better analysis than that. Like I said to you off air before this started, like look at Savona's goal. There is a pullback, and Hakpo is the only guy who hasn't dropped back, and he's got 2 Forest players around him. This cannot be the plan that you have. I don't get it.
Yeah, that is not how to defend. The advanced tactics will teach you you should not have one person, certainly not forward, in the
Mm.
box defending 2 people.
Well,
So
you also saw in the first half, like McAllister had an almost identical opportunity, right? But Forrest had a
yeah,
load of bodies between him and the goal, and I was like,
stop
oh,
it.
weirdly enough, like it turned out that worked. I mean, it's just, I guess we should talk about that. Like, is Slot, like what's happening with Slot? Is
Fraud watch.
Slot gonna work this out? Is Slot getting sacked? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, look, like you said, the first half, like they were unlucky to go be like trailing into halftime, right? Like
Yeah.
obviously terrible goal to concede, but just on the whole they had chances. And if you take away that moment, like they were the better team clearly. My main issue with Slot right now is that he's kind of reached a point where he's changing things for the sake of changing them,
Mm.
and that's a dangerous point to get to, because after their first sub was in the 55th minute, obviously. That's after that goal you mentioned, and that was Konate off for Ege to get on. We've seen this kind of sub before. We saw it in that winning streak as well, but we usually saw it like closer to the 80th minute, where they take off a centre back and throw on another forward. And in those games, what used to happen is they'd start doing something with usually Bradley or Frimpong at right back. Do something. Didn't work out so well. 50, 60th minute sub. Shabazz to right back, extra midfielder on, throw people forward, and it usually worked. They created a lot of chances. And then you maybe get a goal, get an equalizer, maybe go up, maybe don't. If you don't, you throw on another forward for Konate, and at that point, the opposition's like fully just sunk in. They're just like, let me just take this point and go home. And so you can just pummel them and do whatever you want. In this game, it was 2-0 down to Forest. Over half an hour to go. You make that sub, and then how do you tweak the team around it? Well, what he did is he put basically Gravenberch dropping between the centre backs in possession, picking up the ball
Hmm.
and passing it around. And this is like the main thing we said of Slot is that he needs to get his player profiling right this season, because it's not the most straightforward collection of players.
Hmm.
If you put them all together, it's fantastic. It's unbelievable. The talent level is through the roof. If you don't, this happens, and this is a clear example of it. Because Gravenberch is not someone you want like picking up the ball in the back line facing forward,
Hmm.
because he's not Pedri, he's not Vitinha, he's not going to play a magical pass. His whole thing is carrying. So
Hmm.
you want him to be the one kind of shuttling in midfield, going up and down, picking the ball like forward from the centre backs, maybe turning and carrying forward. That's fine. That's where he's done well. The moment you do that, you're taking away the best part of his game, and you're relying on one of the worst parts of his game. And then you get this. And plus, on top of that, the other case where you drop your kind of defensive midfielder between the centre backs is when you want your full backs to push up.
Hmm.
Now, Dominic Szoboszlai is also someone you want coming inside. So it didn't quite work in that sense either. And I know obviously they had like a few rotations to keep Salah wide and Szoboszlai inside and things like that. But like that change to me killed their chances, because like you said, they were doing something in the first half. They had a few chances going on, but after that change, like Forrest found it so easy to just sink in,
Mm.
let Gravenberg have time on the ball, because they knew he wasn't gonna like pick a magical pass. And then eventually, they also like the third goal was, I would say, was kind of coming, because they grew some threat on the break. They got a few
Yeah.
counters, and they got that goal. And that's what happens when you're just like aimlessly throwing people forward with over half an hour left. You are going to get opened up. So for me, like the main issue here was that change, and that's the kind of stuff you don't want to see. Even like you said, even if you get your original setup right, sorry, wrong, which still can happen, you don't want to make it worse for sure. And
Mm.
this was a very clear example of making it way worse, I would say. So that is the main issue for me.
So with Slot, then, do we think that this is something that can be resolved, or do we think that because he's in this kind of the panic vortex, that it's going to be hard for him to get out of it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think, because um, like when Slot was coming in from Feyenoord, one like there was a couple of question marks. One was the pressing, which also we are seeing now. Like the pressing, is it going too well? And I
Yeah.
remember his Feyenoord side did some weird stuff with like the hybrid pressing they were trying, and got opened up sometimes. So that's one. And the other was kind of how does he adapt to having like a more versatile squad with more options, and what kind of in-game tweaks are we seeing from him?
Yeah.
And like last season, it all went very swimmingly. But funnily enough, we're now starting to see all the challenges come here. So Yeah, I don't know. It's a difficult position. I mean, I would say I'm still not at a point where I'm like sack him right now,
Hmm.
because I mean, for one, obviously they won the league last season, and for two, it's I mean, just going circling back to also Tottenham and Frank. I saw Nathan A. Clark on Twitter post a really good video about his thoughts on, in that case, obviously sacking Frank, where he kind of said there's only two cases where you sack a coach, which is one where you're under threat of relegation, which
Hmm.
was not the case for Spurs or Liverpool, or when there's a clearly better option available and you're going to go straight for them, like get rid of this guy, get this better guy in.
Hmm.
In both cases, I can't see that right now.
Yeah.
So, and I think obviously Slot, even at the start of the season, showed like potential with this squad. Obviously, there was overperformance, but they weren't this bad. So,
Hmm.
I would still say like give him time to work it out. But yeah, I mean, they got to work it out fast now, because it's not even like he has now an international break to kind of just sit down and this is right after an international break.
Mm.
He's come up with this, so that's the concerning thing for me. But I don't know, maybe like the like constant barrage of games might even help them, where they don't actually have time to cook up too many genius ideas and
Sure.
stick to basics, and maybe that works out, because I mean the talent clearly is there. So yeah, I mean I'd still stick with it, but like again, like similar to Spurs, is like let's just do some basic stuff and not try and mess things up too much.
Yeah, it's kind of it was never, I don't know if it was the case as much as people thought it was, but the narrative that you used to have around Pep in the Champions
Yeah,
League,
yeah, overthinking
where it
thing.
was
Yeah,
just like, bro, you don't need to go out there and do this insane like mousetrap nonsense. You can you've got one of the best teams in the
just play
world.
your players, man. They'll beat Lyon. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. It's like, don't overthink it. For what was at that point, like I think they were like seventh in France as well, Lyon, when City lost to them, like that kind of thing. I agree. The difficulty here, of course, is that you need someone to cover right back. If you put Zaboslai there, you can't do last season's thing. But then you've just got to put Wirtz there and like go for it or something. You just got to run out the same lineup every week. Honestly, like this is where we are now. The results are so bad that you can just bench whoever. I think so. Bench Isak if you want. Ekitike has looked better so far.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, I
keep
agree.
Hakpo on because he actually has
Yeah,
been
he's the
playing
one guy who's
well.
been consistently good.
Yeah, and then just limp through to January, and then in January, I don't know, like in January they get a right back, get a
But
centre
did you
back.
say? I think he said something like I forget. I don't want to get this wrong. But he said something like defenders are not our like main priority or main position of need. I was like, are you looking at the same team I'm looking at? Because like
What does he think their main position of need is then? Like, I mean, I'd be
head
interested to
coach,
hear.
I don't know.
I would love to hear like what his thought is there. But I don't even know if they'll do that though. Like it depends how bad it is. If the results
Yeah,
start to come back to sort of the level they should be at, where they're just like they're pretty good, but they're not great. If they get back to the edge of top four, then I think Liverpool will just look in January and say, unless there's a real opportunity available, we are not gonna. They never do it in January. So unless
yeah,
something really smart is in the offing, then I kind of think that Liverpool will say we're just going to run with this for the rest of the season. But even if they were to get a right back, then what happens then? Zaboslai goes into midfield, and then what happens to Wirtz? Like there are all these kind of cascading problems as a result of having built this squad. So I agree. Like Slot, the only scenario in which somebody better is out there than Slot right now and is gettable is if the whole squad, quits on Slot. I
yeah.
don't really see that happening. I just see that they're playing badly. I don't think that it's like people aren't trying anymore. Um,
And not after winning the league last season. Like, why would you quit on that coach of all? So yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
that's unlucky.
It's hard to respect board boss Neel. That's the thing. Um, these are kind of jokes I make to Ted, and they're funny. But when I make them and Ted's not here, they
It's
seem mean.
Monday, and that's not really like, well, I gotta get it out.
It's the one thing I can mock him about. Okay, right. Shall we go on to Italy then? We're going to have a little chat about Italy before we wrap up here because it was the Milan derby this weekend and
Speaking
Milan.
of bald head coaches,
Oh my god. And There are a lot of coaches in Italy who are spiritually bored. Um, Look, Milan won, and Milan are up to second. They beat Inter. They're second to Gasparini's Roma, which is like a feel-good story, which will definitely last. Christian Pulisic gets the winner. 7 goal involvements in 8 appearances this season. He's at zero 0.9 expected goals and assists per 90. To be honest, though, this was a Mike Maignan game. Like, Mike Maignan was absolutely off the charts in this game. He saved a penalty. He saved a bunch of really good efforts from Inter. It was about 2xg to 1. Inter just seemed doomed to kind of be the best team in Italy by the underlying numbers and not win the league. Like this season, do you know what their expected goal difference is per 90?
1 point. Nah, I'm going all the way to 1.
It's plus 1.06.
1.1. Okay,
Yeah,
close enough.
so
Yeah.
1.1, yeah, you're right. It's plus 1.06. The next best team in Italy by the underlying numbers is Juve with plus 0.53. So Inter's expected goal difference per 90 is like twice as good as that. And yet they're 3 points off top. Allegri seems to be playing like truly the most evil football that the world has ever seen. But the defense that was like really imperious to start the season is now like just kind of okay. So I do feel like they're eventually gonna get hauled back.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of issues. I mean, like, see, I'm always hesitant to say there's a lot of issues with Allegri's haram-ball, and then have them somehow do some, I don't know even what they do, but somehow like keep up for the rest of the season.
Mm.
But I'm actually just writing a newsletter piece for tomorrow, which is looking at what they've been doing and whether it is sustainable. And so far, the answer is no, for various reasons. One, of course, I would even say like the defense. Yes, they've been giving up more, but that's like probably the more sustainable part of it because they have kind of conceded 5 goals fewer than XG,
Mm-hmm.
but the majority of that is Magnon's like plus shot stopping. I think he's over 3 goals over on PSXG.
Yeah.
So I would still say, you just put like 8, 9 people back, crowd up the center, don't give up like big chances, and Magnon will save whatever comes his way.
Yeah.
So fine, like that's also fine by me. But there's like so many other issues. So for one, I mean they've beaten all the like other teams in the top 5 of Serie A, and they're still not top. Why? Because they've lost to Cremonese, they've drawn with Pisa, they've drawn with Parma, and they've also drawn with Juve and Atalanta. But okay, those 2 are acceptable. The other 3 are like, clearly very silly results, and very costly because that's why they're not top. And then there's then I looked further into the numbers, and basically Milan get better, and this is obvious, but like you could just see it more clearly with like if you plot like for example their possession and results or
Mm-hmm.
field tilt and results. So basically they get better results when they have less of the ball
Yeah.
and when they've sunk deep. Like when you let them, like for example Cremonese, Pisa, those guys let them dominate. They're like have all the ball, have all the territory, and they
Mm-hmm.
couldn't do much. And I mean that's not just a problem of Allegri. Look, I would love to complain about Allegri. I could do that all day, but that's also like their squad building. I feel like their attack doesn't probably have enough against those kinds of teams. I know obviously they have
Mm.
like Santi Jimenez, who Allegri doesn't seem to like too much, but like the front 2 of who is it?
Here,
Pulisic, Leao,
yes.
non-strikers basically. It's gonna work in these games, in these like open games, not open games, but games where the opposition comes at you and you can open them up in transition. So that's the kind, like that's how the goal comes, right? It's a counter, it's a break. Salamakers gets forward, gets the shot, and then Pulisic gets the rebound. But if in there were like dropped back, where are the shots coming from?
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
Captain America isn't unlocking the low block. Leao, I mean, like, are you gonna trust him to be your main goal scorer? Like, I really enjoy watching him, but I wouldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're super reliant on basically Jimenez, and he's out till what, December it says, yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
he's out for still another week, and even when he comes back, I don't know how much he's gonna play. So it's a squad building issue. It's an Allegri issue, and obviously add on to all I said, the midfield. They don't have goal farmer Reinders anymore. So who's getting the goals now? It's Adrian Rabiot making a run into the box.
It's going to be Luka Modric playing number 10 is what it's going to be, which I would like to see. But yeah, I mean, you're totally
But
right.
but
Like
but the
in
problem is, if you put him number 10, then who's your progressive passing six? Like, he's gonna be everyone, because
nobody.
all the other midfielders are just like guys. Like the rest of the midfield is pretty much guys. Okay,
Well,
I
yeah, I
mean, to
mean,
be fair,
they run it, don't they? Like in this
yeah,
game,
yeah.
they had 2 passes into the penalty area, but 7 carries into the penalty area. It tells you everything about Milan's approach to this game. So yeah, a deep passing midfielder would help them a lot,
I mean, to be fair,
or
they do
keep
have
Modric there and get a 10.
Yashari.
Yes,
Yeah,
they
they
do.
do have Yashari coming back from injury,
Yes,
so
that's true.
maybe there's something that happens. But I would be impressed if you can pull off Modric and Yashari,
Mm,
um, in like a 5-3-2 low block system, and not get opened up a bit, because you do need Modric and two guys to cover for Modric out of possession.
hmm
Like, that's the role of the guys. So it's a difficult one. But yeah, on the whole, I think even if I would question it, because they've obviously, even in this game, I think they were outshot 12-4 before the goal.
mm.
So even if you keep scamming these big game results by low block and counter, even if you do that, you still haven't shown enough against the rest of the teams, of which there are quite a few in Serie A, to seriously stay with the top teams. Now I say that, but then I also acknowledge that except for Inter, as you said, who have good underlyings, no other team looks good. So I could say the
No.
same. Like, we could be talking about Roma. I could say yes, very good attack, but I think you guys spoke about them last week. But I have questions about the defense. So I don't think this defense is title level. And then we talk about Juventus, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on, guys. Why is Coop minus playing left center back? you,
Mm.
you can't win a title. So every team isn't title caliber, and so maybe anyone can win. But yeah, I have a fair few questions of Milan, and in a normal season, I don't think they'd be near the title race.
I agree, and I think that, but the thing is, I think that's true of some, a few of these teams.
Yeah, yeah,
I
exactly,
think,
yeah.
yeah, like you say, like Roma's underlyings are worse than Milan. They're top right now. Like
Excellent
I
stuff.
love Gasperini, and at least with Gasperini, I think with Gasperini's football, there is a path to getting more than they are getting right now. Though his defense has been very good by his standards so far this season. But Gasperini ball, I do think increases in power as the players get to know one another and understand their roles better, which is
Yeah,
not really something that could be said of this type of Allegri football we're seeing. But then I look around, I'm like, well, okay, Napoli's numbers are not great either. They're worse than Milan's underlying numbers. But the reason we don't care is because it's Conte, because they won the league last season. Bologna's numbers are better than all these teams, by the way. Um,
yeah.
like if you rank the teams in the league by underlying expected goal difference, it goes Inter, Juve, Bologna. So I still kind of default to my belief that Inter are 3 points off the top. They are the best attacking team in the league. They are the best defensive team in the league. That will probably show itself. At the same time, as you talked about and wrote about last season, Inter have been getting old for a long time. And they did get in some guys this season, not all of whom are playing all that much. Like it is still a very similar lineup that they run out most weeks to what we saw from them last season. So we should reasonably expect that there's going to be some kind of drop off in the back half of the season. So unless they start to pick that lead up, I don't really know that they're going to have an easy run of it, even if they currently look like the best team in the underlying numbers.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of the issue last season as well, right? Because at least I last season thought, oh yeah, these guys are the best team in Serie A.
Yep.
Yes, Napoli are challenging them, but then they had the Serie A, they had the Champions League, that Coppa Italia, they had everything going on at the same time, and they had a bunch of old guys, and it all fell apart. And yeah, like you say, even this season, I would say keeping the same guys around is fair enough. I not fair, justifiable. I can get behind the argument where you're like, look, all the other teams are not good. If we're just good, not even great, if we're just good, we can win the league. So let's save our overhaul for another season because these guys do have enough to be good, and let's get through this. We probably get another league title out of it, and then we'll see what happens, which is fair. But as you say, now they're not top. They like ideally would want to be pulling away, which they aren't, and we're getting into the kind of closer to the business end of, or not the business end, but the, closer to the Champions League knockouts
Yeah.
when things start getting more serious,
Mm-hmm.
and when we anticipate will have more issues than they do right now. And on the other hand, Milan don't have European football at all, so they're just going, league game to league game, week after week. That's when it starts looking a bit concerning for Inter. Is you still haven't addressed the issue, and you're kind of putting yourself in the same position again. And maybe this time it goes different. Maybe this time you don't have a insane semifinal with Barcelona that kills all your players. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
maybe it works out better, or maybe you even get knocked out of like the round of 16, and then you can just focus on the league
Yeah.
and get over the line. But it's still not kind of clear cut. It's not a case like Arsenal, for example, in the Premier League, where they obviously have the depth, but also a bit of a buffer to the
Sure.
other teams who are also in
Mm-hmm.
the Champions League and also contenders. So it's kind of still a level playing field as well there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the main issue for Inter. I mean, apart from that, like it is the same team pretty much. So I guess we don't have anything new to say. So yeah, these guys are good.
Well,
But
though, except, obviously I know you think this, but we are not believers in Chivu to the degree that we were believers in Inzaghi.
yes, yeah, but the good thing for him is he's just been like, what Inzaghi used to do is good. Let's just keep doing it, guys. So I mean, look, fair enough. Like that's a fair enough approach to take. So yeah, like I think the differences felt like in games where I felt Inzaghi's in-game tweaks and substitutions were better, which I
Yeah.
haven't really seen from Kivu, and that's felt in games like this, for example, where maybe with Inzaghi they get the equalizer, but yeah, I mean, I think the squad has enough to like probably is the best squad in Serie A on paper, and as long as you can maintain a balance and don't have too many kind of freak results, yeah, you have to say Inter are still probably the favorites. But it will be a real mid off this Serie A title race, so
we will
good
be here
fun.
to we will be here to cover it. We will be here to determine who is a fraud and
Who
who
is
is
the
not.
most mid of
Yeah, who's
of
the
these
most
lot?
fraudulent of that entire crowd of frauds? That brings us to the end of our podcast for this week. We will be back later on in the week with our regular public episode as well as a new Patreon drop. Please do sign up to our Patreon, patreon.com/the transfer flow. We have talked on a bunch of really interesting topics, I think, about finding good managers and breaking down deep blocks and recruiting from smaller divisions, all this kind of stuff. Head over there and you can check out the most recent episode with me and Hayden, and we will be recording again later in the week. Thank you so much for your support over there, and thank you for your support here. Please do leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. Leave us some questions in the comments below, or you can get at us on social media, and we will see you next time. Bye bye.